Hello there. My name is the Met Enthusiast, and you're listening to the Nothin But Bricks podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. Before I get into the interview, I do just want to say thanks for all of the support on the previous podcasts and on this one as well if you're listening. It is really appreciated. This week I have a very awesome guest, Funky Monkey Studios. For those of you who don't know, Funky Monkey Studios is a fellow brick filmer. They also make live action projects on their channel as well. They're making some really great content that I highly recommend. So definitely go subscribe to them on YouTube, Funky Monkey Studios. The link will be in the description. Without further ado, here is my chat with Funky Monkey Studios. Alright, so I am here with Funky Monkey Studios. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, it is I, Funky Monkey Studios.
I guess to start with the basic kind of question, what got you into brick filming?
So you know those, like the Michael Hickox pizza chase videos?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when I was a when, when I was younger, I used to watch those all the time, like Michael Hickox videos. And at that point, I did not know what stop motion was. I always thought it was just it was just magic how they just moved, and that really got me into the like Lego animation community, and I watched from there. Kind of moved up to some of the newer animators like Headbound and Forest Fire 101.
Right, yeah, and what do you think it was kind of in particular when seeing brick films for the first time that kind of really drew you to that kind of wanting to make your own kind of videos?
Just I I always wanted to like make those short movies with friends, like short films and stuff, but I never had the ability to, or my friends and I would just move on from thing to thing too fast. And so at some point I learned what stop motion was a bit more, and then I have this huge Lego collection, so I kind of decided to spiral from there, and I started making little animations at first, and eventually they became a lot larger scale than I had anticipated originally.
Cool, yeah. So who would you be your current kind of biggest inspirations when it comes to creating brick films?
I really think right now my biggest inspiration for brick films is probably Andy Boyer and Steve Lenny, the guys who made Biff and Mario. I just love how they just didn't care about quality as much, but just wanted to tell stories, stories, stories. That's a pretty big inspiration. And also just Forest Fire because he's Forest Fire. His animation is incredible.
Yeah. So then, what kind of stories, I suppose, do you uh, enjoy telling the most in your brick films, like comedy or drama or things like that?
I like to go for action, but not just action scenes. I like having more in depth stories with the action, although I've been trying to move away from that because it is a bit, I don't know, not as interesting to just watch action all the time.
Yeah.
I want to get into comedy.
Cool, yeah. I feel like there are a lot of action brick films which can be a lot of fun to make and to watch, but I feel like it is also cool when there's that added level of context behind and weight behind the fight, like why it's happening, what's going on.
Also, it's just important for the story.
Yeah,
If you want a good story, you need to have build up, you need to have context as to why it happens. And context can be as simple as just Dane Cook, like the Dane Cook Gets series. Like he can Dane Cook could push over a hobo and like the hobo slaps him with a fish or something. That can be all the context you need, but sometimes it is nice to get more context beforehand, more of a story than just boom fight scene.
Yeah, like on even like a couple of lines, like if they're like kind of vague, they can still kind of like create this kind of story within the viewer's mind, and then it's like, okay, I know why we got to this point where they're at the point where they're fighting each other. But yeah, that's interesting. The kind of idea that uh, I guess not as many brick filmers doing fight scenes maybe think about going into them of like, what can I add to really add like to have these punches kind of really pack a punch, I guess, with context.
Yeah, I think a great example is I forget what it's called, but it's an Ed Bone video where I think it's like a sushi chef versus a samurai. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's Chef versus Samurai. Yeah.
But that one has very minimal build up in a way. It's just it introduces the two characters very differently. Even that just builds up a action scene more than if it was just two guys fighting right away.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about that video too is there's also like context given at the end as well. So it's kind of, you realize the it's also kind of like played off as a joke, which is pretty funny too, to build the whole thing up to this one kind of punchline. But I think it's cool to provide that kind of context afterwards too sometimes. Just as kind of like a, it gives it more rewatchability, I suppose.
Yeah, and it also doesn't leave the viewer just hanging like, oh, that was a cool fight scene. It also is like, oh, so that's why they were fighting. It just gives you closure and makes the video so much better than it was already.
Yeah, for sure. So when writing your own kind of videos, who would be kind of your biggest inspirations for writing and things like that?
Ooh, that's actually a good one. Man, that's got me stumped. I think a big inspiration for just writing scripts would be Nathan Wells and Zach Macias. They have I think it's a 27-minute like clips from a stream of when they were making the cleaners, and it has a lot of scripting bits in it, and I feel like that is a great way to draw inspiration for like scripts of at least how to write them is just gain from some of the best in the brick filming community, but also just movies and TV shows and YouTube videos I've watched can just give me inspiration. Just all over the place, inspiration comes in.
Yeah, cool. I think for me to kind of, anyway, to see that kind of behind the scenes and back and forth kind of dynamic with Nathan Wells and Zach Macias while they were creating, and they kind of cut to how it came out in the video. It's quite cool to see the process kind of unfold um, as it goes throughout the behind the scenes, and then to also go into watching the film with the added context of, oh, I know how they made this bit, and it's just cool to see the behind the scenes kind of stuff. But I guess that leads me into another question of what would the pre-production and the from pre-production to kind of post-production, what would that look like for you when creating your brick films?
Uh, Depending on the scale of the project, it can be anything from just an afternoon animating to several weeks or months procrastinating and animating and trying to fit it in with my school schedule and just life in general. It really depends on the length of the video and how much energy I want to put into the project.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Have you got any projects in the works at the moment that you're particularly excited about?
Not at the moment. I have to finish a commission currently, so I'm trying not to write any stories right now for animations just because I don't want to get distracted from the commission. So it's due by the end of October, and the last thing I need is like a month of just writing a different story and not finishing this.
Right, yeah, and however much you're allowed to give away, I suppose. What's the commission in relation to?
Um, it's in relation to a company I've already done a commission for called KBD Craft. They have a product which is basically a mechanical keyboard but with a case built out of Lego. So I'm
Nice.
just doing some animation for them with that, yeah.
Cool. So, have you been doing commission work for a while now?
Uh, about a year. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of hate it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It's it's not as creatively filling as or fulfilling as working on my own projects, but it is nice to make money off of something I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go, I'll go into live action commission work more in the future.
Nice. Yeah. And because you do make both live action and brick filming projects, I suppose from creating both, have you been able to kind of learn certain skills from either one and take those and kind of bring them into the other medium?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like from doing live action type stuff, I've gotten quite a bit better at lighting scenes, especially outside types shots. I've gotten a lot better at lighting. And for just going into live action from animation, one thing that I've gotten a lot better at is the composition of a shot and the lighting and such. Just knowing how to light shots is a big thing that I've got from animation.
Cool. Yeah. I feel like um, a big part of improving brick films for me anyway has just kind of been observing like things in real life and how they work, and how to apply that to like animation or camera work and things like that. I think it's really cool to be able to learn multiple things from doing different kinds of creative work, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So in your videos, would you do most of the voice acting yourself?
Uh, in my older stuff, I definitely did, but when I joined Bricks in Motion like 2 years ago, I learned that I could just ask other people, and most people are happy to do it. So I've been asking other people to do it recently as well. I also do voice acting pretty much on every project I make.
Nice. Yeah.
Actually, do you voice act mostly on your projects, or do you also get people to voice act for you?
I feel like originally, when starting out with adding voices into my videos, I didn't have the most kind of confidence in my voice acting, so I did kind of outsource. And before I knew about the kind of Discord community of brick film brick film voice actors, I would have um, outsourced to Fiverr, which was kind of costly at the time, but wasn't too bad. But yeah, if I knew about the Discord scene earlier, I guess it would have helped a bit. But yeah, I think after that, once I started to kind of try it out in my own videos, I kind of then spread into wanting to try more voice acting in more projects, I guess. And I kind of realized too that I kind of started out of necessity, and then it kind of became more of a love for voice acting. Would that be the same for yourself?
Started my projects with a lot less knowledge in how to voice act, and definitely just out of a necessity because I didn't have Discord, or I wasn't on Bricks in Motion for the longest time. And so just doing projects and voice acting by myself was what I always did. It was fun, but you can kind of tell going back that I'm voice acting both characters.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the drawback to voice acting by yourself, because it can be quite convenient for, like, if there's like a last minute kind of project or something, like if it's like Thack or Brawl, and you kind of need the voice lines immediately, and you have a specific idea for the delivery and everything, it can work quite well. But then when it kind of comes to, like you were saying, two characters like interacting or something, it can come across a bit kind of, uh I guess it can kind of skew the viewer a bit, or rub them the wrong way, maybe, in terms of them seeing the quality of the video in a different kind of light because of that kind of thing. So sometimes it can maybe feel like uh, shooting yourself in the foot, in my opinion. But yeah, I think um, that the general consensus that I've seen kind of has been the same kind of thing of people starting voice acting out of necessity for their own videos, and then kind of spreading out to other people's stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely what happened with me. I am a case example of what of that.
Nice, yeah. And what would have been your favorite project that you've voiced in so far?
I think probably my favorite project I voiced in that is outside of my own was I voice acted in the Sharp Eye Slide Studios Sharp Eye series, episode 4. That was just really a really cool experience getting to voice act for such a popular series and such a decently sized YouTuber as well. That was cool. That was
Nice.
definitely a cool experience.
Cool, yeah. And you mentioned about the the plans for kind of live action films and things like that. Do you have any kind of ideas for that in mind at the moment?
Yeah, I'm actually currently filming a mini documentary for my school's football team, soccer team, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure when that'll be done. It's a documentary, so
Cool, yeah. So yeah, what would be kind of your favorite brick film that you've made?
I think my favorite brick film that I've recently made would be either my THAC entry from 2023 or my Brawl entry from 2022. Just because my THAC entry, I used so many things that I have learned recently or contests and such, and just the I feel like my cinematography in that project was really good, and so was lighting compared to previous projects. But I also like my Brawl 2022 entry, Echo, just because I had very limited supplies to make that entry, and it turned out very well for what I had. So that's why those would be my probably my favorite two entries I've made so far.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, I feel like having a limitation to kind of what you're able to create like what you're able to use to create, I feel like definitely makes you kind of have to become more creative with how you go about making things, I guess. Like, I guess an example for myself was more so recently. I've been doing like animations on a smaller kind of desk than normal. And I also don't have any like, well, I have them now because they just came like yesterday in the post, but I didn't have any rigs beforehand, so um, I had to kind of get creative with what I used to, I suppose, rig my characters up. So I just used my hand for most of the shots and stuff. But yeah, I just found it quite interesting how using what you have actually kind of, for me anyway, makes the projects feel a lot more personal and special.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite interesting when you don't have as much to use, or let's say you're traveling around the time of Brawl, just only packing what's in your like just packing your suitcase with a little bit of Lego and hoping you can come up with a decent story. I feel like that's a really fun challenge.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and makes for some interesting stories or just weird videos.
yeah, definitely. And you were saying before about entering Thack and Brawl and things, and I guess a common theme that I've kind of seen with some people is that they can overestimate the time that they'd actually have, or I guess how long it would take, and it might maybe be a bit too. The script originally ends up being like too overly ambitious, I guess. That was definitely the case with my own Thack entry once, so I kind of had to cut a lot of the script out and things like that. What was your experience with that before?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like every time I've written a script for Thack or for Brawl, it's always been a bit too ambitious, or a bit. It's been ambitious, but definitely I could finish it in the week or day, depending on the contest. But this year for Brawl, I just completely missed the. I just completely went over ambitious and unfortunately did not complete my entry. I've finally gotten around to editing it a little bit here and there. So hopefully it'll be coming out soon. But yeah, it's definitely a lesson to something that should you should be cautioned by in Brawl and Thack is don't go too overly ambitious because even though you might think that you can succeed in that story, you'll more likely have to cut things and it won't be what you had envisioned it being. It's better to make something that isn't quite to a level you wanted than to make something where you had to cut things or it wasn't as you wanted it.
Yeah, I feel like making something within a very short span of time, I guess having that kind of deadline and time constraint definitely affects the finished product if there is too much ambition, I feel like. And I feel like maybe with a lot of brick filmers, because brick filming is such a process that requires a lot of patience and ambition to keep going with it for so long, that I guess that's probably why a lot of brick filmers find themselves cutting out half of what's written down in their script or missing the deadline and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, what do you look for in a brick film in terms of like what qualifies as a good brick film in your eyes?
I feel like when the storytelling and voice acting are very good, I feel like when those are as pretty much the highest quality that they can be, even if your visuals don't match it, but your sound and story are good, then you've pretty much completed the best brick film that you can possibly make. And I feel like as brick filmers, we get a lot of Oh, I want a DSLR because it'll make the quality so much higher, or I want to get a new mic because and my audio will be so nice and crisp. But if you just focus on your storytelling first and then also maybe your audio a bit more, I feel like you can definitely tell a better story than someone who could light I f- like your animation could be completely blurry. The voice acting could be good and the audio can be good and the story can be good and it'll be better than, let's say, a forced fire video where he focused on animation and lighting, but didn't focus as much on story. It's it really depends on that. I feel like visuals almost aren't as important as audio or story
Yeah.
because it depends. If you want to make a silent film, then it's definitely more important to focus on the visual side of it. But if you have a good story and good audio, then the visual side doesn't matter as much as those aspects.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've definitely fallen into that kind of illusion before of, oh, well, if I get the same camera that this brick filmer is using, then I'm on the right track to be getting better at this and being almost the same level as this person. Or I guess it is a mistake that a lot of people might make when getting into it of better equipment equals better brick films. To an extent, I can see that, but I guess it is what you're saying, like the story should be focused on more, and the point of the brick film should be kind of the focal point, I guess, when making it, as opposed to the visuals when starting out, at least, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I do like some good visuals as well. They do help to stay engaged, especially on YouTube, where there's so much other content.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to sit down and just watch a animation through. You just gotta have that discipline to finish an animation, even if it's not the best. It'll still be fun to watch and a good experience.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I myself definitely starting out thought like, oh, I need all this equipment and that's the only way that things can be done. But yeah, I guess focus more on the things that a lot of people maybe overlook when starting out. I think you definitely stand out a lot more than if you did have the visuals, but they are definitely appreciated too. Like you were saying, when you get to like forest fires kind of level, I do feel like the visuals are kind of a big part of the videos too, because it's like professional animation and really great cinematography and visuals and everything and VFX and all that, and that combined, I guess, with whether it's like comedy or a drama or anything, it is definitely really cool to see that kind of spectacle.
Yeah, definitely.
I ask this to kind of every guest so far in the more recent kind of interviews, and some people give kind of a surface level kind of answer, and some people can be a bit more kind of deep about it. So it's kind of whatever you're feeling. But what is Lego to you?
Ooh. I feel like Lego is a way of expressing your creativity, expressing yourself. It's an amazing medium to do those things with just because it's so widely available. Pretty much every country you can find Lego or some thing that might be similar to Lego. And it's got such a wide variety that you could just basically anything your mind wants to build, you could pretty much build. If you wanted to say build a castle, you can do that. Want to build, I don't know, the Batman tumbler, you can also do that. Want to just build a big tree because tree, you can also do that. It's it just is limited to what your mind can make up.
Mm,
And I so Lego to me is just like a creative tool. Whatever you want to build, you can build.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people kind of outside of the community who don't really get it, it probably comes from a place of not really understanding that there's a lot of creativity involved. Like people who kind of just see it as maybe a toy or something for kids. It's like it's a lot deeper for a lot of people than just what's on the surface of like bits of plastic, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, are you excited for any upcoming Lego sets at the moment?
Lego sets. I've not really been too invested in looking at Lego sets just because I I need to move. I'm gonna turn 18 soon and like this is my last year of school, so I'm trying not to buy as much Lego since I'll have to move sometime soon. But I am liking the Indiana Jones sets. I definitely want to get one of those. Those are pretty cool. I like them.
Yeah,
Are
nice.
you
Yeah.
looking forward to any, actually? I'm curious now.
I have been trying to collect as many of the Star Wars helmets as I can. So I'm always on the lookout for more of those. So far, I'm kind of missing a few, so I should probably wait until I have the funds to get those before looking at any of the new ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool to see that there's like the more kind of display kind of stuff, the stuff specifically kind of made for being on display is always cool to see.
Yeah, I like those. Those the Star Wars helmets are definitely cool. I'm not that into Star Wars, but those helmets are definitely cool. I like that they're yeah, branching out into more display pieces. It's yeah, it's fun. I feel like you've always had brick heads, which were also I'd consider those more display pieces than play pieces.
Yeah,
And yeah, I have a few of those, and those are cool. But the helmets are on just like another level.
yeah, I feel like the detail that they're able to get to, like the level of detail compared to like the pricing at this stage is kind of shifting a bit. I feel like people are getting more creative. The designers, I feel like, with the limited number of pieces that they have with the budget in mind, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so you were saying before about the live action stuff and the commission work and everything. So I guess what would be your preferred kind of medium, like brick filming or live action filmmaking?
It really depends on what context it would be in. If it's just for fun, I definitely would rather brick film just because it's not as intensive trying to get friends out to voice act versus act multiple times. Because voice acting, you can just get one or two friends over. It'll take maybe 30 minutes, an hour, and then you just hang out. But live action filming with friends is chaos. So for just for fun, I'm gonna stick to brick filming, but for commission work, I want to go more for live action because you can just go out for a day and or two and just film things for clients, and then just it's a lot less of a hassle. I feel like to do live action work for commissions.
Yeah, if there's like a specific idea in mind that I guess doesn't require a massive budget that could only be made through kind of brick filming, then live action is definitely a lot easier to kind of get done for like commission work and things like that. Like you're saying, but yeah, what would the process of getting the voice acting done for your projects look like then? Because you're saying your friends would come over to voice act.
It would probably start with either messaging them on like one of the three following platforms, either iMessage, Discord, or Instagram. I'd probably reach out to a friend and then say, "Hey, you want to asked if they're interested in voice acting for a break film project of mine. Most people won't say no, that's dumb or it's so stupid. Why are you wasting your time playing with Lego? Most people probably aren't like that. They'll probably say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll come by, voice act." It's it depends on where they are in the world as well. If they live locally, then I'll definitely just ask them to come by, just hang out, voice act. Maybe we start off with voice acting just to get it out of the way, and then we hang out for a bit. That's definitely the process.
Cool, cool. And I suppose which kind of process do you prefer in terms of like uh, kind of text going back and forth and like giving feedback on lines and then getting lines back as opposed to kind of in person giving notes and things like that to the voice actor?
Uh, I feel like online, it's kind of it's a bit easier in some ways because I do live in Asia, and most of the people that I do talk with to do voice acting online, they live in like Europe or American stuff. So it makes it easy because I can send them the lines, they'll record it, send it back to me. I basically get it when they're asleep, and I can like listen to the lines and then say I want one redone. I can just email them or message them back, and they'll see it when they wake up or whenever they check Discord the next day. I feel like that's a nice part of doing it online, but then also if it's in person, giving notes is in some ways easier because it's just, let's say I'm telling you to voice act this line and I'm not completely satisfied with it. I can just say, yeah, can you just give it more like, can you give it more of a oomph? Can you like give more passion to the line versus what you're doing, which is just maybe kind of half hearted just because I ask you to or something. It's definitely faster to do it in person, but online's nice because you can reach people that you would never be able to get otherwise, like Jay Silver, Zach Macias.
Yeah, definitely. I think doing it online is quite handy in the sense that you can kind of pre-screen the kind of skills of the voice actors. I guess you could do that in person too, but I feel like in person it's more like you'd hang out, and then once you actually get to recording the voices, that's when you kind of discover the person's voice acting ability, unless you would be aware of it beforehand somehow. But yeah, I feel like online, for me anyway, is quite handy to get kind of ensembles for videos and things like that. Um, there's also, I think, a lot of people who would kind of understand more, uh, like the kind of the passion. They probably have the same kind of passion for it that I myself would have when making the video. So it's cool to see the kind of enthusiasm around it too as well. Um, yeah, and have you ever had any kind of negative perceptions of the fact that you make brick films, or what has that been like for you?
Uh, I've never had anything negative. I've just had people whenever they ask, "Oh, what do you do for fun?" and I say, "Oh, I make Lego animations." They're always like, "Oh, that's doesn't that take a lot of time?" Where they say, "Oh, that's cool." It depends on their age as well. If you're talking to adults, they'll be like, "Ah, that's so cool." Like they'll be interested in it. They'll think it's awesome that you're expressing yourself creatively. But if you're talking to uh like teenagers and stuff, ask they'll also be interested, but they'll also say, "Oh, doesn't it take a lot of time?" And they'll be yeah, I feel like I've never had a bad reception to brick filming or being a brick filmer. Have you had bad receptions to that or
Um, well, not really. No, I mean, I've had like I guess people just being a bit kind of jaded about it. I suppose like not really receptive to it. Um, but not really like going out of their way to make me feel bad about it or anything like that. But yeah, it is interesting how you mentioned how adults kind of receive it differently to younger people, because I've definitely had the same kind of experience where uh, if I try and explain it to an adult, they definitely react in a more positive kind of way, like you were saying, like um, they seem quite happy that it's like even if they don't understand it, they're still uh, happy that the that you're doing something fulfilling and creative. But yeah, I think a few times um, my mom would have been explaining it to someone, and they wouldn't have been familiar with it at all, but she would have described it as like Lego videos as opposed to Lego animation or anything. So I kind of had to usually have to fill in the context a bit, and so they don't think it's just me like playing with the figures or something. Um, so it's definitely been an interesting kind of mixed response overall when telling people about it, I guess.
yeah, definitely.
And would you have any kind of like regular voice actors that are kind of your go-to voice actors for creating your videos?
Uh yes and no. I don't really have I do have some people who we do voice act for each other a lot. There's two other brick filmers. One of them is uh his name is Ben. He's from like I think it's shoot now I can't remember. It's the Brick Bros with the Legos. There we go. That's his channel. Ben from Bros with the Legos. I feel like I've had him voice act quite a few times on my projects, and also Jim from Jim's Epic Films. We voice act on each other's projects quite a bit. So I feel like we're regulars, although we all we all haven't really been making much brick films recently just because of school starting back up and such. I would also say this feels weird to say, but in a way, Zach Macias, he's voice acted on a few of my more recent projects and has just he's really like to work with because he kills it every single time I send him lines. Every time they come back perfect, and I've never been unhappy with a Zach Macias voice act. Um, do you have regular people to who voice act for you, or
Um, some people, I guess. Yeah, I'd have I suppose myself and a friend of mine, James, or just like Pat. He would do lines quite a bit for videos and stuff, and he's quite good as well. And yeah, I think Mind Game's quite an active voice actor too, like in terms of uh, online, like Discord voice acting kind of stuff. Like I've seen him shown quite an interest in uh, kind of voice acting in a lot of uh, projects, which is quite cool. But yeah, yeah, I'd also have like my own kind of siblings and stuff. Sometimes voicing in my own stuff, and then I myself would voice in my own stuff too. But then I'm always, I guess, on the lookout for kind of new people to voice certain roles whenever I might introduce a character that I have a certain, I guess, voice for in mind that I might not have heard before or something like that.
Mm. If you ever need if you ever need me to or want me to, I can voice act. I also to anybody who's watching or listening to this, I'm happy to voice act for you. Just reach out to me. I'm Funky Monkey Studios on the Bricks in Motion Discord server.
Nice, yeah. Yeah. Cool, yeah. And if it like if it wasn't for a brick film or anything like that, like a different kind of animation or something, uh, would you still kind of have that kind of passion for voice acting? Do you think?
Uh Maybe not as strongly, but I feel like for if it was for actually no, if it's I'd have the same passion because voice work is voice work, and whether it's for a friend's project or for a Pixar movie, I wouldn't want to change my voice or make my lines be more like I wouldn't want to put any less time into either of those projects than I would normally. Like if a friend wanted me to voice act, I'd put in the same amount of effort as if, let's say, Disney would want me to voice act. There's not I wouldn't change it just because of a bigger name or something.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty cool too, to kind of give it 100% for every kind of project, kind of ignoring the bigger picture and just kind of focusing on the craft of voice acting, I guess, is quite cool. Because I found myself anyway that, like I was saying before, I wasn't too confident before in my voice acting ability, but then I feel like half of it is just kind of committing to whatever it is that you're saying or voicing, and committing to just saying the full line can go a long way, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, that would be cool. If anyone wants to reach out for voice acting or anything. But what would you say is your current favorite Lego set that's kind of already been released?
Ooh. And I also go into unreleased or not unreleased, but uh canceled themes.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. That extends the amount. I think probably one of my favorite sets, Lego sets of all time would just be the Yellow Castle because it's just so simplistic and it's exactly what Legos encapsulates for me, just the idea of having a castle but then also having the same brand make another toy that is just a city theme or something. I feel like that just the Lego castle encapsulates that for me. Sorry, I can't English right now, but I feel like that set just is what Lego is in a way, just the yeah, just everything. Also just like any 3-in-1 set just also is that idea. Just Lego can be more than one thing. And I really like that. It's cool.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think the 3-in-1 sets are quite cool because it is like what you're saying. It reminds you kind of, or at least for me, it would remind me that it can be kind of anything even outside of the instructions. But I guess for me personally, I'd definitely be someone who would want to stick strictly to the instructions for a specific set. But if I'm going into a mock or something, it's a bit different. But would you make many mocks yourself for like videos and things like that?
Uh, I've started getting back into mocks. Uh, they're quite fun. It's just been I've been working on the commission for a while, and so I got the itch to build again, just build for myself. And so I did build a mock about 2, 3 weeks ago that I haven't quite finished yet, just with detailing and such. Which, yeah, I definitely would like to make more videos on mocks and build more mocks and get quite good at that. Because it also can go back into brick filming with set design. Or if you're better at making mocks, you can also make better set pieces and more interesting set pieces for your brick films.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I kind of realized that more so, I guess, recently. The better you're able to just like build whatever comes to mind, the better it'll translate into set building for videos and things. And I definitely would ask my sister to build a lot of the sets for videos because she's definitely got a better eye for that kind of stuff and skill for that kind of thing than I would. But I think yeah, I should probably work on on that skill a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good skill to have.
yeah, I should definitely try to improve it a bit. But yeah, what would be your favorite mock that you've created?
Ooh. I have this as like a little mock showcase on my channel, but it was a abandoned gas station mock. It was like just for just for fun. I built a little abandoned gas station zombie apocalypse type build. That was a lot of fun to do.
Cool. Yeah. So for like the minifigures and things like that, would you involve minifigures with your mocks, or would it be kind of just the terrain and things like that?
I definitely include minifigures just because that adds such a cool level of extra detail, and you can just tell so many stories with those characters and what they're doing. So
Yeah.
would add I definitely would add minifigures to it because it just brings life to a scene.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like for myself anyway, brick filming has definitely taught me how to pose characters in a way that's more kind of endearing for like freeze frames or mocks or things like that. But you're saying it was like a zombie kind of mock, so I was kind of curious, like where would you get the zombie minifigures from for the mock?
Uh, in this situation, I actually just used the yellow smiley face heads as the zombies, just because the blank faces kind of reminded me of what zombies would look like. I also didn't have any zombies on hand, so
Nice, yeah, yeah. That kind of goes back to getting creative more so with the limitations of using what you have. Kind of, I think that's a really cool concept too for like a video or something like a zombie apocalypse, but the zombies are just like the minifigures with the basic smiley face. That's quite cool.
yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. So I guess to close out the podcast, is there anything that you'd want to chat about before wrapping up the podcast?
When did you go from just like brick filming in like your videos taking maybe an hour or two to just to you spending multiple days, weeks, or months on a project? Like, when did that switch occur for you?
I think it was probably 2019 when I first discovered like Edbound's kind of content because I kind of originally I was making videos that were a lot shorter because I was kind of trying to maybe pump them out and didn't really think making longer form videos would be worth it or possible at the time with like limited resources and things like that. But seeing Edbound's video, Batman's building brawl, the way he kind of breaks it down at the end, with how it was made at the time definitely made me want to delve a bit into that kind of realm of things and give it a try myself. So then I kind of did a lot more long form stuff, and what I found too was you actually learn a lot more from doing something that's long form than the shorter videos. So within the time of being able to create a long form video, I feel like I improved a lot more brick filming wise and animation wise than shorter videos over a long period of time.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like for me, the switch just started when I wanted to tell more extensive stories and just I started taking more time with the stories and just focusing on how the buildup would work, how yeah, how the visual quality also looks just a little bit. It also stemmed from me not wanting to spend a couple hours in my it also went from me spending hours and hours in my room to just a few hours because I also started hanging out with friends more and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely, when I was talking with Jade White, I was saying a similar kind of thing, but it's definitely hard to try and balance the kind of normal life and making long form brick films or just a brick film in general because it's so demanding of time and energy too when creating brick films.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and is there anything that you'd like to plug or promote for closing out the podcast?
Uh, I would like to promote. I would like to plug and promote. Uh, the the YouTube channel on YouTube. Uh, Funky Monkey Studios, my very own channel. Because if you're gonna watch this entire podcast, you might as well watch a video or two that I've made. Also, just want to plug the Met Enthusiast.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people go check out your stuff, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was very fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Enjoyed it a lot.
So that was my chat with Funky Monkey Studios. Thanks again to Funky Monkey Studios for coming on the podcast. Be sure to go check out their YouTube channel. The link will once again be in the description. If you enjoyed this, a like and a comment would be greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to support the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Nothin' But Bricks podcast.